Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 37 of Sooner Girls Sports Pod. And I have an amazing episode for you today. Lots of fun stuff. My injury report with Dr. Jason Leinen. We talk about knee injuries, lacerations, and the benefits of a bye week. I have a short snippet with my BFF Karen, who joined me on the sidelines at the Auburn game this past week. So we talk about that fun experience and getting a sideline view of the game and some behind the scenes with the Pride of Oklahoma. We had a great time there, so you won't want to miss that short segment as well. And also, the main attraction is my fantastic interview with my sweet new friends, Julie and Dennis Burbank. Julie played softball at OU in the early 90s. Dennis is a dual sport athlete from OSU back in the 90s as well, where he played basketball and baseball and later played for the New York Yankees. They have a fantastic, fun story. They're just the most amazing people. Cannot wait for you to hear that story. And to start off this week's episode, I'm going to run through the Sooner headlines of the week to get things going. And I do want to point out, I forgot to mention this on my segment with my friend Dr. Jason Leinen, who I am so thankful he's joining us each week for the injury reports. I think it's a lot of fun just to be able to go through and talk about what our guys are dealing with and the different scenarios with that. But the good thing about our injury list this year is that guys seem to be recovering. It's happening. The storyline all week were the availability of our guys on the line, like Jake Michaela and Febeche Nuwawe. They both ended up playing every snap for the Sooners this past weekend. They had very heavily tanked ankles, but they got the job done. So shout out to them. Shout out to our medical team, our trainers. The recovery is happening, and that is fantastic. We did find out some more information on Troy Everett and his season-ending injury, so we talk a little bit about that as well. I did want to mention one thing that Coach Venables said about Owen Heineke, that I did not get mentioned on the segment with Dr. Leinen, but he does think that Owen Heineke has a fracture of some sort. He thinks maybe a possible bone sticking out of his skin, but he said it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. So right now it looks like something minor. It won't be a long-term thing. So again, with the bye week coming up, that is a good thing with a little extra time for recovery. Again, I just want to give a shout out to my friend Shav and Aaron for the amazing opportunity to do a little behind the scenes with the band this past Saturday. It was a really neat experience getting to go through all the pregame stuff with them and just hearing the different sections of the band and see what all they go through and all the hard work they put in to make game day so spectacular. It was just truly an amazing experience. Being on the sideline is absolutely incredible. I am so thankful for the opportunity. And if you missed my photos, videos, I literally posted them everywhere on all my social media at Sooner Girl Pod. You can go check out photos, TikToks, videos, all the things to see the highlights from that day. But it was truly just an amazing day. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity. And again, shout out to my friend Shav and Aaron for that opportunity. I had him on the podcast earlier in September. You'll want to go listen to that one. Check him out talking about fundraising and the behind the scenes with the band. I also have our drum major, Hallie McFarland, and our twirler, Sammy Rizzo, on the podcast that will be dropping next week on October 1st. So you won't want to miss that amazing episode as well. I also ran into, on the field this past weekend, my dear friend, Whitney Messy. She was on the show back in March. And of course, my sweet friend, Chris Plank, that you'll find on the sidelines. He has been on my show several times. So thankful for him for always supporting me, and I hope you'll go and listen to his episodes as well. A quick update on some of our guys in the NFL. Baker hit 25K in passing. He's now in top 5 of franchise history in passing yards. He has the most passing touchdowns in the entire NFL since joining the Bucs. He has the most passing touchdowns in the fourth quarter since joining the Bucs. He also has 12 fourth quarter comebacks, actually make that 13 after this past Sunday in his career. And he became the first quarterback since Brett Favre in 1999 to lead game-winning touchdown drives with less than 2.5 minutes to go in back-to-back games, as he did this past Sunday. Jalen, shout out for him with my shirt today. If you're watching the video, you can see my Jalen shirt. He had a game-winning drive. They're 17-0 in his last 17 games. Just an incredible showing for Jalen and the Eagles this past weekend. And also Kyler, unfortunately, lost on the road at San Francisco this past weekend. Our sweet CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys went out with an ankle injury. I saw he does have a high ankle sprain and is unlikely to play this coming Sunday night in Sunday Night Football. So I really do hate to hear that. With our CeeDee Lamb, I wish him a quick and speedy recovery. One more stat about Baker I forgot to throw in. He is the first quarterback in NFL history to have back-to-back winning game drives in the first 3 weeks of the season. So shout out to my boy Baker. We all love watching him, and he has found a home in Tampa, and they all love him, and I'm here for it. Also, I'd like to mention that last week, Torrey Blaylock was my MVP of the week, and he was also SEC Freshman of the Week. So shout out to Torrey Blaylock for that award last week. Okay, for the Auburn game, Oklahoma has as many wins against ranked opponents as the entire Big Ten conference combined. The Big Ten is a combined 2-8 against all of their ranked opponents so far this season, and so interesting fact there. So will our lack of running game catch up to us? That is a good question. And again, bringing up Torrey Blaylock just a moment ago, it kind of makes you wonder. Our lack of running game was definitely concerning this past weekend, in my opinion. However, we got the job done. We got the win. So I'm not going to complain too much. But another thing I want to throw in is also we are the only FBS football team who has not yet gotten an interception on our defense. How that is possible, I don't know, because our defense is absolutely dominating. I really don't have a lot to complain about as far as that side of the ball, except for why haven't we gotten a turnover? Now, maybe we're just waiting and saving it for a big moment in Dallas. I wouldn't complain about that, I suppose, but I'm ready to get a turnover. Maybe it'll happen at our home game with Kent State here in a couple weeks. We do have a bye week coming up this last week in September, so that will be great for injuries and recovery and just resetting and things like that. But coming off a bye week, we will host Kent State in Norman the first week in October before we head to Dallas for the Red River rivalry. So how about a turnover, boys? Let's get it done in Norman this first week in October. Well, the good news is Grayson Miller is an awesome punter, but the bad news is we saw a heck of a lot too much of him on the field this past weekend. But after the game, he now leads the country in average yards per punt at 51 yards. I will not complain about that. Again, unfortunately, he was on the field a little bit too much. Wish we had turned those into scoring drives, but not going to complain when the dude's booting the thing 51 yards. So we had 10 sacks. It was a school record. 7 guys played a part in sacking Jackson Arnold, and that's now he is in the record book twice at OU, which is a pretty crazy thing to think about. He was the QB at OU that was sacked the most in one game as the quarterback for us, and now he is the quarterback that OU has sacked the most in one game. So pretty interesting fact there about Jackson Arnold. He had an interesting reception in Norman. Some weren't so fond of it and were shouting some not nice things, but ultimately Auburn came out with the loss, and it was just a good day for Sooner Nation. A very interesting game. Officiating was sketchy to say the least, but just a lot of interesting calls that were and weren't called going both ways for both teams for sure. But it was just interesting. But Oklahoma's 10 sacks versus Auburn are more than all but 9 teams have had all season entering this weekend. Oklahoma had more sacks on Saturday than 90 other FBS teams have had all season long. The Oklahoma defensive stats versus Auburn are incredible. 10 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups, 3 quarterback hurries, negative 64 tackles for lost yards, and negative 44 sack yards. Holy smokes, you guys. Auburn being the 7th best offensive line in the country. So just an incredible outing by our defense. Again, like I said, one downside is we're the only team in the country that has not yet to force a turnover on defense. The other 135 teams in the nation have all forced at least 1 turnover. So hopefully our time is coming. It's hard to be 4-0 with a negative 6 turnover margin, but somehow we've done it. It's just crazy to think if we start getting those fumbles and turnovers and turning them into points, what we can do. We faced our first deficit of the season, and we answered it with a game-winning touchdown. It was very interesting. Isaiah Satenga was involved in the middle of several controversial plays, one that was called back, one that was questioned, and one that eventually went our way. But his receiving stats versus Illinois State was 16 yards versus Michigan 44, Temple 97, and then Auburn this past weekend 127 yards and 1 touchdown. So obviously he's had a consistent increase in production for the Sooners. Transfer wide receiver, certainly not going to complain about Isaiah Satenga. Jaron Kanik leads tight ends in the country with 307 yards. So shout out to my boy Jaron. My friend Karen and I got to snap a pic and meet up with him after the game on the field, so that was pretty incredible. So again, shout out to our guy Jaron. John Mateer, incredible. Not his best performance, by any means, but he's still at the top of the Heisman watch. Oklahoma is ranked number 7 in several of the polls, so we're not going to complain about that. But he was 24 of 36, 271 yards, 1 sack, 1 rushing touchdown. He was 16 of 20 and 157 yards after the half. So he definitely got better in the second half. We've had 2 top 25 opponents, 2 opportunities in the fourth quarter to go score and put the game away, and 2 times John Mateer's gotten the job done. He's made it very clear he's going to get the job done, take it into his own hands, get it to the house, get the game won, and that is exactly what he's done. We are undefeated. He is definitely that dude, and he kind of reminds me of somebody else that I know whose name is Baker Mayfield. Just putting it out there. I'm a big fan, obviously, of Baker. He's one of the favorite quarterbacks I've ever watched. I see a lot of him in John Mateer. I see a lot of him, and so that's very exciting. So since 2000, only 5 players have had a rushing and a passing touchdown in 9 straight games, and John Mateer is one of those. He joins Derek King, Tim Tebow, Marcus Mariota, and Lamar Jackson. So pretty well-known names there that he joins that elite club there. I did want to touch base real quick on that controversial call that again involved Isaiah Satanga. The SEC released a statement about the play where Oklahoma scored, and they say that it should not have been counted. They said that Oklahoma disguised a receiver during a substitution using the quote hideout tactic on the sideline, and they threw a touchdown to him on that play. According to the SEC, that touchdown should not have counted, and the Sooners should have received a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty that would have made it 2nd and 37. But we won by 7. We won by that score. According to Teddy, some of the Auburn fans are apparently calling to call that game a tie due to that call. But I've listened to a lot of different commentary about this play since the game ended. I went back and watched it myself. I saw a photo where Satanga's lined up on the side. He's literally right next to a ref. He apparently gets the okay from the ref on his placement before the play, and no one stopped him. No one said it was illegal. The whole point of it is a hideout. It's a trick play. It wasn't a substitute. They weren't trying to lie or hide anything. They were just trying to throw him off, and they succeeded. Again, Gabe Eichert saw nothing wrong with the play. But our offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, said Satanga described it as a tempo play after the game and asserted that it was legal and verified by officials pre-snap. We didn't substitute. We were on the field. We asked the official if we were lined up, and we were on the ball, and everything was good and legal. We weren't in a big hurry, so they were a little confused by it. My friends Jeremy and Stephen Goss on the Soonercast pod said that it was a deception play because he never left the field, and it was approved by the side judge. Nothing wrong with it beforehand. And the announcers on TV were even talking about it, and they didn't think there was anything wrong with the play either, so said it was very poorly officiated game going both ways. Again, I think that's a pretty common opinion across the board. Gabe Eichert said he had watched the film 10 times over. I listened to him on the Oklahoma Breakdown just before recording this. He said he's having a hard time figuring out why walking toward the sideline, getting lined up and pointing to the ref to make sure your alignment is good, getting the thumbs up from the ref and the ball being snapped is considered, quote, unfair tactics. Satanga did not fake a limp. He didn't act injured like he was going off the field. No one else came on the field. He didn't jog toward the sideline or anything. He just literally walked over there, got lined up. We went tempo against Auburn, and then they just forgot he was there because they were too busy jawing with Deion Burks. That's exactly what happened. And so it was definitely an interesting statement from the SEC. I don't know if they will possibly release a second statement regarding it since it's been so much hullabaloo about it. But Toby Rowland said, according to a source in its regular pregame meeting with the game officials, the OU staff brought up the planned play and sought confirmation that it was legal, and they got the okay to do it. Teddy said he would like some clarification from the SEC, but basically he didn't see anything wrong with the play. Since an official was lined up right next to him, but I guess we'll see what happened. It was just an interesting situation. I had to go back and watch the play again and just kind of read up on some things. I certainly am no rule expert, but I didn't see anything wrong with it either. And if these guys are all saying they didn't see anything wrong with it and the rest okayed it, I don't really see what the big deal is. But anyway, it was just announced before recording our future permanent opponents, at least for the next 4 years. Joe Castiglione told Dari this past week that they were going to announce our permanent opponents. But we got a sneak peek today, a day early, and they're saying that ours will be Texas, Missouri, and Ole Miss. So I think there's a lot of feelings. Obviously, we knew Texas was on there. We've talked about Missouri. I talked about that in my episode with Trey Millard. on how we feel about that one. Ole Miss was kind of a shocker, in my opinion. I don't know that that one was necessarily on anyone's radar. I believe we were kind of thinking it might have been possibly Arkansas, but we were leaning heavily toward LSU. So interesting that we get Ole Miss. But hey, a trip to the Grove, if you haven't gotten an opportunity to do that, definitely a great time. So to give you at least a couple more opportunities to make a trip out to Oxford, and I highly recommend it. We went out last year, so at least knowing that we'll be playing them the next 4 years, you'll have a couple chances to make a trip out to Oxford, experience the Ole Miss, and check out the Grove. It's pretty incredible, so highly recommend that. Shout out real quick to Bob Stoops. He is named to the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame. He will be honored at the Rose Bowl in January, and he's one of only 11 people who have both participated in the Rose Bowl as a player and a coach. So shout out to our favorite coach, Bob Stoops, for his induction to the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame coming up. And then Coach Venables was named the All-State Good Works Team honorary head coach. And basically, he was chosen this year's honoree for transforming his program while championing services and leadership off the field. He's the first OU head coach selected for the Good Works team. He's the 9th Oklahoma football representative to be named to the Good Works team. 8 players have received the awards in the past. Jacob Gutierrez in 2006, Nick Harris of 07, Gerald McCoy 08, Quentin Carter, 2010, Caleb Kelly in 2018, Chance Sylvie in 2020, Ethan Downs, 2023, and Gavin Sawchuk last year in 2024. So due to his work with the Soul Mission and that he reestablished mission trips around the world and service opportunities for the team in Norman, as well as his 212 Foundation for Women's Health and Cancer Research. So shout out to Coach Venables for that awesome recognition. Men's basketball, we had a huge commit with 4-star 2026 guard Gage Mayfield committed to the Sooners just this past week. And it was going around Twitter. Of course, the name Mayfield means a lot in the city of Norman. So shout out to Gage for committing to the Sooners. We're looking forward to having him on campus. Softball also got a big commit with Riley Hilliard as the OC Bat Buster Star of 2027. Fielder has committed to Oklahoma. She's the second catcher in the 2027 class to commit to us, in addition to Goose Hutchins, who committed just a couple of weeks ago. Our volleyball team has an 8-2 record after their unfortunate loss at Central Arkansas this past Sunday. It's their final non-conference game, and they begin SEC play at home this Friday against LSU at McCaslin Fieldhouse. Again, believe the admission to those games are only about $8 a piece. They are having Fan Appreciation Night on October 10th, free admission against the South Carolina team coming into Norman. So if you're going to be around Norman that night, it's the night before OU Texas, give me a shout. I'd love to see you at the game. I'm planning to attend with some of my girls. So come out and support the team and give me a holler. Our soccer girls had an unfortunate loss at Vandy this past weekend, but they're still holding strong with the 8-1 record. So shout out to Coach Mott, my friend Hadley Morrell, who were both on the show this past summer talking about our awesome soccer program, and they continue their SEC play at home this week. Again, it's free admission for all of the home soccer games. So I hope that you will get out and support that team. It's so fun to watch. So check their schedule on Soonersports.com and get out and give them your support. Our tennis men and women are qualifying for the All-American Championships. Barcott Quadre and Chloe Noel advance in the women's singles qualifying draw, and we're still awaiting some of the men. They're still competing today as I record this. But congrats to Luis Alvarez on an impressive showing this past week at the ITF M15 Fayetteville Singles Championship, and congratulations to him for representing the Sooners well. Our track and field cross-country team have races this week. Our women are in Columbia, Missouri for the Gans Creek Classic, and our men are at the Cowboys Jamboree in Stillwater, both this coming Friday, so you can follow those on social media. Our golf women have a record broken. Our freshman in her collegiate debut, Meg Tilma, fired a 65 in round 2 of the Schooner Fall Classic, the lowest round ever by an OU freshman. That's an incredible score. So shout out to Meg for that. We did have a historic weekend at the Schooner Classic for the Sooners. 832 team score is the 3rd lowest in OU history. Tilma's 202 is 8 under par, sets an OU freshman record, and the 7th straight top 5 finish at a regular season event. So shout out to Reagan Cheney hosted her on the podcast earlier this spring back in April, and the OU women's golf team for a fantastic showing in the Schooner Classic. Okay, my Sooner MVP of the week, Coach Venables gave the game ball to the fans. I definitely don't disagree with that. The atmosphere on Saturday was absolutely incredible. But I would say if I'm going to give it to someone different, I would choose our Mason Thomas, our defense, again with the sacks. Our Mason Thomas was out the first half due to the targeting penalty that he occurred in Temple, but he came out guns blazing. He bookended the second half with amazing plays and sealed the deal for the Sooners in the win. So shout out to our Mason Thomas. Was so glad to see him back on the field in that second half, and just an incredible showing by him. He was ready to get on that field. Okay, to end this show with a Sooner fun fact of the week, in 2023, the home of Oklahoma's men and women's golf teams, the Jimmy Austin OU Golf Club, was named the number 6 collegiate golf course in the country by Golf Week. So I want to thank all of you all for listening and joining in today. If you're new to the podcast just to hear the guests, I hope you enjoy all of these awesome interviews and guests that I have on. I hope that you'll go follow me on social media. I'm at Sooner Girl Pod on all socials. I hope that you'll subscribe and download your shows and share with a friend. I'm on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. I'm also on Substack. I have merch available, some awesome shirts, hoodies, koozies, hats, visors, stickers, all the things. You can check that out at soonergirl.bigcartel.com. I have a newsletter coming out soon, the Playbook. That's my monthly newsletter. You won't miss anything big with Sooner Girl Sports Pod if you subscribe on Substack and get my newsletter for free. That will be coming out in the next week or so. So be sure and go subscribe to make sure you get that sent to your inbox for free. My locker room girls, $5 a month to join the locker room. We had a meetup this past week in person. I do monthly online huddles on Google Meet. You get a merch discount, lots of other perks, inside information, get all the secrets before everybody else does, some that some people don't even get to hear. All the good stuff, lots of perks. Again, you can join that for $5 a month on Substack. And there's advertising and sponsorship opportunities. If you're interested in supporting me that way on the podcast, you can shoot me an email at soonergirlsportspod@gmail.com. Everything that I just mentioned is in my link tree, which is my link in bio on all social media at Sooner Girl Pod. I also put it at the end of the podcast video and in the show notes, but my link tree, everything is linked there. Again, everything that I mentioned you can find on the link tree, or you're welcome to message me or shoot me an email. I'm happy to help you. So thanks you guys for listening. I hope you enjoy my tidbit with my best friend Karen, injury report with Dr. Jason Leinen, and the awesome interview with my sweet friends, the Burbanks. It's a fantastic episode. I thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next Wednesday where we talk sports. Okay, so I have on a special guest, my BFF Karen, and I wanted to have her on and talk about what we got to do on game day because she was there with me, and I felt it was only right to talk about it with her since I was going to talk about it on the show this week anyway. So, Karen, we had a great experience on game day. We were given sideline passes by my friend Chauvin Aaron. So shout out to Chauvin for letting us live our Sooner dream. We got to have an amazing day. Sooner best lives for sure. So do you want to tell a little bit about, well, you were very excited about it. If you want to talk about your excitement and just kind of what we did throughout the day.
I mean, I was just excited when I got the text last week saying that we were going to get this opportunity because I was like, this is like the end all be all of the all things. And so I was just super pumped that we were going to get to have this opportunity. And then we got to meet Chauvin down at the Boomer Bash. And then he said that we were going to walk with the band, and we did not realize he meant walk with the band.
Like literally in a parade.
In a parade. So we were laughing because we were like, we don't know what to do. So I was just like, smile and wave, boys, smile and wave.
So we went from the Boomer Bash around past the Union and over to Heisman Park, and we got to listen to the band play front and center, front row, which was super cool. I know I mentioned this to her a few times. My favorite thing about that was just hearing the different sections of the band, the different instruments play their part of all of the songs, because when you listen to the whole song, it all comes together and you don't think about all the different harmonies and sounds of all the instruments. And it was super cool because each stop we made, we were in front of a different section of the band. And so it was really neat to hear those parts individually and then just think about how they all come together and hear the band as a whole. So that was really cool. And so we got to go in the stadium, hit the sideline, and shout out to Dr. David Surratt, who recognized me on the sideline and introduced himself. That was way cool, super cool. And yeah, just hang out and all that.
Yeah,
so.
I was surprised. I thought maybe we were going to be in one little section, like on that end corner by the student section, and that was where we were going to kind of hang out to watch pregame. But then when Chauvin started walking us towards the end zone, going over to the other side, and I was like, what?
We literally went around the entire field,
Yes.
and it was so cool. And so we ran into Chris Plank, my friend. So shout out Plank. I got to snap a photo with him. And of course, I got to meet in person Hallie, our drum major, and Sammy, our twirler. They'll be on the show in a couple of weeks. And yeah, it was really cool to be on the field as we sang the chant with the band. We saw the flyover, the team run out. We ran into the boss, got to say hello. He patted me on the shoulder, which was pretty cool. It was just a really fun day. And then post game, we got to come back down to the field. And so we were down there with some of the players. We saw David Stone, the Bowen brothers, several others. We chased down Jaron Canick, got a photo with him.
We got a
Burger's
photo with
dad.
Burger's dad.
We were a little sad we didn't have on our burger shirts, but it was Crimson Day, so we had to wear our Crimson shirts. But yeah, it was a great time just being on the field for the post-game concert even. And yeah, it was just a really incredible day. Ran into my friend Whitney Messy, the best turf manager in all the land. So shout out to my girl Whit. Yeah, we had a great time, and I cannot thank Chauvin enough for the opportunity of a lifetime.
It really was.
It really, truly was amazing. Dream come true, honestly.
Yeah,
Just
so grateful.
We've been on the field before. I've even been on the field before pregame through the Sooner Club. And this was a totally different, unique, better, in my opinion, no offense, experience. And of course, anytime you can get on the field is incredible. Don't get me wrong. But being in the stadium with all the fans in there and the pregame and just how loud it is, it was just truly a dream come true.
I think we kind of got a little bit of a power trip though when we had our little lanyards with the sideline passes, and we were going down to the field after the game, and we'd come up on security and just kind of like hold up our pass.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't question us and send us on through.
They just let us go. Yeah,
and we started thinking we were hot stuff by the end of it.
Yeah, and we were hot stuff for about 7 hours, but that
we were also old and in pain after it was over.
Yeah, that ship has sailed, but the physical ailments remain as we recover from mentally, emotionally, physically, from literally marching in a parade and all the things with the band out in the hot sun all day.
Yes.
I don't know how they do it. So if we're being honest, we need to give all the props to
Chauvin. To the pride.
Yes, Chauvin, the drum major, twirler, the flag, the whole band, Brian Britt, all of them, their security officers, the cheer squads, pom squads, all of them, anybody involved in the game day that does the Walk of Champions, the Boomer Bash, all of that stuff, just out in the heat or the elements, whatever they may be, just to make game day a great experience for everybody. And it's exhausting. So I don't know how you guys do that week after week after week. So yeah, it was really incredible. Anyway, it's just a super cool experience. I'm so glad again to Chauvin for giving us the opportunity.
Can't say thank you enough.
Yes, and so Karen for being here and being able to go with me. And if you missed Chauvin's episode of the pod, he was on in early September. Hallie, the drum major, Sammy the twirler will be on in a couple weeks. Whitney Messy, the best turf manager in all the land, she was on back in March. And my friend Planks made a couple of appearances. So go check out those episodes for sure. So any closing thoughts on our experience?
No, just completely thankful for the greatest experience for a game day ever that I've ever gotten. It's one of my number one favorite memory.
For sure. And I have a lot of game day memories. I have a lot of experiences. Like I said, I've been on the sideline before, even with the Sooner Club, which is truly incredible to be down there pregame. But we were kind of just sectioned off to one little area here with the band. We got to really make our rounds around the whole stadium and experience a lot of different aspects of it. Being on the sideline, like where the team sits on the benches and looking up at the press box, just truly incredible. I posted a ton of videos and photos on my social media, so you can go check those out at Sooner Girl Pod. So thanks, Karen, for getting to come with me yesterday and for sitting down to chat a little bit about our fun day. So,
and also shout out to the locker room girls for our meetup
yes,
before the game as well.
Oh my gosh, yes, we had the best time. We had the best time at our lunch. Got to meet Corey Wilson, former OU football player who owns Coach's Corner in Norman. So get out and support them and tell them that Larissa sent you. And now for this week's injury report with my friend Dr. Jason Leinen. And we talk about knee injuries, lacerations, and other various injuries, and the positive effect of a bye week and how it can help the team recover for the season going forward. So enjoy this week's injury report with Dr. Jason Leinen. Oh, well, like I said, in the big scheme of thing, we're pretty thankful of being pretty unscathed with injuries, at least nothing too serious. So,
yeah, that's good. That's good. Bodes well for, hopefully the rest of the
yes,
season moving forward here. We can stay on this trend of not getting
I really
guys
hope
hurt
so.
like last year.
I really hope so. Well, and a good thing is we've noticed that it tends to, for the most part, except for some of the longer term injuries that have been lingering for a while, most of the guys have been, of course, minor injuries enough to where they're able to recover, tape it up, and play. Like this weekend we had Jake Michaela, the center, because since Troy Everett's out now for the season, and then Jake was on the injury list early in the week, and I was like, what the heck? Well, apparently him and one of the other O linemen, whose names have escaped me at the time, had some ankle issues, but they taped him up and they played.
Yeah, ready to go. Good.
They weren't doing anything too crazy. They weren't running around, but they were taped up and they did their job. So
yeah, that's right. Really, did well.
Yeah, that's all we can ask. But I know we were going to talk about knee injuries with Troy Everett. We don't know specifics on his knee injury, and my inside source didn't even know any specifics. It's pretty vague, so we can just kind of encompass all of that. But also, Owen Heineke, Gabe Eichard on the radio said that his thumb was bleeding. He went back to the locker room, likely to get stitches and an x-ray. They don't know if it was something broken or if it was a deep cut, anything like that. But he did not return to the game. So not sure of any details other than that on Heineke. But yeah, there's a lot of things in factor in play for that as well. So whichever direction you want to go with that too. Pretty broad field there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I may have to go back and look. I don't know if I missed the play. Heineke got hurt, and they may, sometimes they don't show these things directly, or if he's not directly involved in a tackle, or if it's off screen, who knows?
I missed it too, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes those kind of injuries, guys get cut or, get their hand or whatever caught on a face mask or get poked above the eye and get a little cut above the eye. I mean, yeah, they can, stitch those things up during a game and, run it back to the locker room, stitch them up, if it's not in a critical area that's,
right,
going to directly get hit, again or open back up or, then they might, try to, stitch them up, patch them up. I mean, I've seen that happen and been around when that's been done. But if there was maybe a fracture, I mean, sometimes you'll get kind of what they call an open fracture where the bone pokes through the skin, which is obviously a little bit of a bigger deal. Sometimes those have to be stabilized surgically with pins or obviously carry a bit bigger risk of infection. And so if there's a fracture with a big cut, you kind of have to, I mean, not necessarily always mean the bone pokes through. It could be a separate cut and just a harsh, blow to cause the cut that also fractured the bone. So trying to differentiate that is usually part of it. Yeah. So I guess we'll have to see if it's if they end up talking about a fracture or a surgery or something. Then that would obviously affect how quickly he could return. If it's a simple fracture or something they could put a cast on. I mean, you see linebackers running around out there with a cast on all the time. I mean, if they're not a receiver, then, they don't necessarily need both hands to do their job.
True, very true.
And they can just kind of club it out there.
Right. Well, I hope for his case, not just because I don't want anybody hurt, but he's been doing so well. I hope it's something
Yeah, he
simple
has.
for him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe it's just a little finger fracture. They could put a buddy tape or a
Yeah.
little smaller splint, and he could have most of his normal function. Who knows?
Yeah,
So,
I hope so. So hopefully we'll get
but
some more information on that as the week progresses with all the press conferences. So if we get more information on that, we can talk more about specifics later if we
yeah,
need
sure,
to. So
sure, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned the knee injuries. I mean, obviously, there's knee injuries are a pretty common deal. We see, then there can be a lot of different components to that. Not knowing exactly what happened, I know they mentioned it was the same thing he had on the other knee the year before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a meniscus. I don't know if that's a ACL. I mean, ACL is a bigger injury that takes a long time to recover.
And
And,
it was
and usually you
weird.
kind of know and see that injury.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it happened during practice.
well, that's true. That is true for him.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever actually mentioned that on this segment because I think I found out after we recorded last week, but it was during practice one day last week. So it wasn't in a game or anything like that. So yeah, and he was at Appalachian State before he transferred to OU. And that's where apparently his original injury was on the opposite knee. And so I wasn't able to find anything on that either. I don't know if my Google skills are really bad or what, but again, kind of with my inside source not knowing a lot of details either, I was like, well, okay, knee injury. It's pretty broad, but it's still a big deal, obviously, especially since it's season ending and now he's going to have 2 bum knees, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I hate that for him.
Yeah, that's kind of a bad deal. I mean, you see that sometimes with guys. I mean, think all the way back to Jason White had
Yes.
one year and then the next year almost the exact same type of, play and same type of mechanism. And so unfortunately you do see that. And usually I mean, I don't really subscribe to the fact that, some guys are more, quote, injury prone than others. I think, a lot of times it's just bad luck. And I mean, obviously, a lineman, their knees are getting banged around, and
Yes.
most of these guys, when they're older, yeah, they are going to have bad knees.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's just usually because they're large humans.
Yes,
but
they're very big guys. Yeah, Troy Everett is massive. So
they're getting rolled up on all the time.
Yes.
I mean, nowadays you see, 30 years ago, you didn't really see guys wearing those big braces every player every day. Now they figured out, okay, these things help protect some of these kind of injuries.
Yes, for sure.
And so knee injuries are part of the game, unfortunately, whether it's an MCL or an LCL or an ACL, kind of these different ligaments that are within the knee, which makes me think, maybe it's an ACL. I mean, guys can usually rehab and recover from an MCL unless it's complete. If it's completely torn, it might need a surgery. MCL being kind of that inside ligament of the knee, in case people aren't familiar. And those can and usually will heal on their own if they're, not a major complete tear. And sometimes they can tape those up or put a brace on or give them a little support tape job of some sort and, kind of let them try to go if it's not a major, deal. Sometimes with that, they'll get that meniscus, that little cartilage inside the knee that gets torn. Unfortunately, usually is a surgery deal unless it's just a real minor thing that they can maybe try to rehab a little bit, but usually that's a surgery, but typically not a season-ending surgery.
Yeah.
But again, it just kind of depends. So
I know
it's hard to know exactly.
Yeah, and with it being
how to speak to it with that.
Right. I mean, they said season ending, so that really does make me think it's one of the more major long-term ligaments, and I hate that for him. I don't know where he falls as far as eligibility goes, but I'm assuming he'll at least probably be back next year if all goes as planned for him and everything.
Right.
But,
yeah.
I mean, I just hate it. I mean, to miss the whole season, it's pros and cons, I guess, the way you look at it, with it being early in the season. I mean, he's going to miss the whole thing, but I guess on the bright side, maybe he'll have plenty of time to recover for next season.
Yeah, that's true.
If that's what he chooses to do. So
yeah,
I'm just glad
hopefully so.
Yeah, I'm just glad we have a lot of depth at that position and people that can shift around. And I mean, for the most part, knock on wood, haven't really missed a beat, so to speak, with that. Now, if we can just keep, like I said, Michael, I had his ankles taped up, so I hope that
Yeah.
nothing comes of that. But we have a bye week, and that's very important. And so hopefully that will help us recover a little bit more, give the guys more time, and that's going to work in our favor for that for sure.
Yeah, I think the bye week, especially for these guys that are injured a little bit and for the
Mm-hmm.
training staff and the medical staff, I mean, I think
Yes,
they look forward to these bye weeks just because
absolutely.
it gets them a chance to get some extra rehab in, gets them a chance. Some guys can, even take the whole week off practice if they need to,
Yeah,
uh, because, they're not missing a critical
very true. Yeah.
time when they're really trying to prepare heavily for a certain team or a certain
Yes.
scheme or whatever. They have a little more time, obviously, to do that. So yeah, you can hold guys out of practice. You can,
Yes.
have them, maybe just ride a stationary bike or,
Yeah.
get in the pool, get on the treadmill, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
and let them, do a different workout where they're not stressing those injuries.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully, some of the more minor things and sometimes even bigger injuries guys been dealing with, they can, getting that extra week
Big deal.
really can make a difference. Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, from a
Well, and
rehab
we come back
standpoint.
and have Kent State at home, so that's not going to be a super stressful, pressing game. So hopefully, again, it will just give some people more time to prepare for what we really want them for the following week in
That's right,
Dallas.
for
And
sure.
then,
Yeah,
another thing too is we go through October, which is a pretty busy month after this bye. But we have another bye week in November, early November. I think it's the first Saturday in November or like the 8th if I remember correctly. But anywho, we have that other bye coming up, so that could be beneficial again as well, just in the middle of the season, but
yeah,
toward the
for
end, so
sure,
to speak, and just give the guys a little more rest because conference season, obviously, as we can tell, is going to prove to beat them up a little bit. So a
for
little break
sure.
isn't
Yeah,
going to hurt at all. So yeah, we at least got that coming up as well in another 4 weeks or so after we get back from this bye. So yeah, a
yeah, for
little more
sure. Yeah, it's
rest.
it's it's pretty, amazing to watch the difference between the two SEC teams going at
Yes,
it
it really is.
versus, some of the other teams we may have played.
It really is.
Um, and just a different level of intensity, different level of
Very
athlete that's out
much.
there. So yeah, I mean, these big collisions and big
Yeah,
um, tackle games. I mean, there's going to be some guys with some bumps and bruises, but yeah,
absolutely.
hopefully nothing major. I mean, it's part of the game, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if we can keep our guys healthy, especially going into
Yeah.
these big games that we got coming up.
Yes, we need it for sure. I mean, I feel like our quote big games are kind of scattered throughout the rest of the season. I mean, of course, all games are a big game when you're in the SEC, I guess. But we have Texas, and then we go to South Carolina the next weekend,
South
and then have Ole
Carolina.
Miss at home. But I mean, that'll still be a tough atmosphere on the road. But yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're gonna have a
Yeah.
long stretch here at the end, but a nice break in early November will be good. And I don't know if
Yes.
you've ever been, or since it's been remodeled for sure, I can't remember how long that's been. The Barry Switzer Center, like their recovery areas where they have the cold plunge pools and the hot tubs and these cryo rooms, like all
Oh
kinds. Like
yeah.
I've gotten to tour all of that and see
Mm.
everything, and it's just really cool to see all of the tools and everything that they have. I mean, they've got the big massage chairs and all the things to help those guys recover. So
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing good up there. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff at their disposal to help them. So they
Yeah. Oh
hopefully
yeah.
can,
That's
yeah, enjoy their bye week and get a
for
little recovery
sure.
in.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that's definitely changed over the years as
Oh,
far
for
as
sure,
the equipment these guys have access
for
to.
sure.
I mean, it's been, I don't know, it's been a while, 25 years, getting close
Uh-huh.
to it since I was at Tulsa as an undergrad. And obviously that's a smaller school, smaller program, but we actually built a new training room and weight facility and everything while I was
Oh,
in
cool.
school. But
Okay.
when I first started, the training room was literally a closet, smaller than my current bedroom,
My
basically.
word.
They had like two tables to take guys' ankles, and they had one, little machine with hot packs, and
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so
and so
crazy.
you switch to, even again, it's also a much smaller caliber school than OU, but the new training room had 15 tables and
Yeah.
a huge area, another 10 tables on this side of the room for treatment,
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
a cryo room with three or
Yeah.
four hot or cool tubs, and
Uh-huh.
they've since put in one of the Swimex pools. So
Yes, yes.
it's just amazing these things that change,
It
really in
really
not
is.
that long a time frames.
For sure. Well, shout out to the Golden Hurricane and
Yeah,
Coach Trey Lamb the other night. That was a great win for you guys. So don't
good
want to
one for
jab at
sure.
don't want to jab at my pokes too much. I know my guests are on the show this week are actually a Bedlam couple, so I'll
Oh
probably
well,
have a
okay,
lot of
yeah.
poke listeners. So I don't want to jab them too much. But no, it was a great game for Tulsa and
Good win for
Stillwater. So
Tulsa.
good
Not a
win,
great
yeah.
game for OSU, but
I hate it for
we'll see.
OSU just for my husband's sake and my poke
Yeah.
friends, but yeah,
Although I
it's
was
just
talking to some guys yesterday, technically OSU is still undefeated in the Big 12, so the whole
well,
season's ahead
that
of
is
them.
true. That is very true. And they open up this week with Baylor at home, so fingers crossed. Well,
For,
our Boomer Sooners will enjoy our off week and we'll hopefully not have much to
yeah,
report
for
next
sure.
week. I hope you all enjoyed our injury report with Dr. Jason Leinen and my weekend review with my best friend Karen, who joined me on the sidelines for the Auburn game this past weekend. We had a great time. It was just incredible. So shout out again to my friend Shav and Aaron. Thank you for that amazing opportunity to join the Pride. For all of their pregame festivities and then on the field during the game. It was incredible. But I want to introduce you to this week's guests, and you guys will absolutely love this amazing interview with Dennis and Julie Burbank. It is a special double Bedlam episode. My husband, Eric, who is an OSU grad, joins us for the interview. And I want to give you an intro for Dennis and Julie. They are just the most amazing people. I was able to meet them in person just a few weeks ago, and just the best people, the best humans, so kind. And I'm so grateful to have made the connection with them and become friends. So Dennis, in his words, a two-sport athlete, two-kid dad, and has one hot Sooner wife. And he is a certified financial planner during the week and a wannabe middle-aged professional wake surfer on the weekends. He was born and raised in Southern California, but he got to Oklahoma as fast as he could. He loves traveling with Julie and his friends. He loves flying his Beechcraft Baron plane for business and pleasure. And you can find Dennis on Twitter/X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. He is at dburbank44. I will link it in the show notes. And of course, we'll be tagging him throughout the week with all of the material on social media. Also, he told me that his favorite thing about OU is being able to watch Patty build every year what she has done with the program, and he just loves her tremendously. Has a lot of respect for Patty, Porter Moser, and Skip Johnson, and his favorite person in the world is a Sooner, so he has to be a Sooner fan to some degree. But his favorite Sooner memory is walking out of the fairgrounds with OU catcher at the time, Kevin Shula, who stopped him to introduce him to a gorgeous blonde softball player who had just finished watching her Sooners get beat by the Cowboys again. But the rest is history after that. They have an amazing love story and just story in general from all of their time playing sport. And I know you will love to hear about his time playing with the New York Yankees as well. And Julie Burbank graduated from Del City High School. She was Julie Dobbs at the time. Freshman and sophomore stats are under her maiden name. Junior and senior year stats are under her married name. She was a member of Zeta Tau Alpha sorority. She was the starting shortstop for OU softball 1990 through 1994. Some of her notable teammates were Lonnie Alameda, who is the Florida State head coach. She was her first baseman. And Kelly Ford. She is a recently retired Fullerton head coach, and that was her center fielder. So lots of great names on those teams during that time. In her words, she met Dennis at a Big 8 baseball game as he walked up through the stands with an OU baseball player in May of 1991. He left for pro ball, aka the minor leagues, just 2 days after they first met. But in the fall, an OU baseball player transferred to OSU, and in October 1991, Dennis asked him, Brian Cavalli, if he knew Julie and if he could possibly get her phone number. They were engaged by Valentine's Day 1992, and Channel 4 sports anchors just happened to be in Norman that day, and they let the whole world know on the 5, 6, and 10 p.m. newscast about their engagement when Dennis showed up in a full suit of armor. Julie left that same night for OU softball opening weekend in North Texas, but they later got married in November of 1992 during her junior year at OU, and they are celebrating 33 years of marriage this November 2025. She currently works for Northwestern Mutual with her husband in Oklahoma City, And in 2020, she was appointed by Governor Stitt to serve on the Oklahoma Employment Securities Commission for a 6-year term, leveraging her human resource expertise. They have 2 great kids in their Bedlam family. Jordan Burbank, who graduated from Texas A&M, played soccer there for 4 years, transferred to Oklahoma State for her COVID year to play soccer, where she earned her MBA. And also their son, Drew Burbank, who is a current student at Oklahoma State. He's an Eagle Scout on the OSU varsity esports team. He is a junior at OSU pursuing a degree in entrepreneurial business. Julie has always been a Sooner fan. She was Sooner born and raised. Her parents had season tickets growing up, so it's all she's ever known. And her favorite Sooner memory is making the Women's College World Series poster. You can find Julie on Twitter and Instagram at Team Burbank, and she's also on LinkedIn as well. And I would like to note that there are several photos placed throughout our conversation on the video, and you can watch that video of the podcast, and it is available on YouTube and also on Substack. So if you are interested in seeing those photos come up on the screen as we discuss them. Otherwise, all of those photos will be available on my social media throughout the week. I will be posting several graphics highlighting each of the photos and the stories that we tell that Julie shared with me. There were so many great photos, so there will be several days of photos shared. So you won't be missing anything if you don't watch the video, but just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And I hope you enjoy this fantastic interview with my sweet friends, Dennis and Julie Burbank. Well, I'm glad that she conned you into doing this because I'm sure it's like him. So this podcast, and about 3 weeks in, I was like, hey, you're going to come do a podcast with me. And he was like, it's me. So he kind of got thrown into it as well. But you've made a couple of appearances now.
It's been fun. We like to banter. Most of the time people think that's the most fun as it is, because you got to have fun with it.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. We're ready. We'll do it.
Well, I'm glad to have you guys on today because I think you have such a cool story of your journeys in life. And then, of course, how you met and got married. And when I first started talking to Julie, she messaged me. And one of the first things she sent me was the Bedlam marriage picture. And I told my husband, I was like, these are our people. I think what I said was, you guys are us, but on steroids, but only because obviously you're athletic and I am not for sure an athlete at all. But I think our passions run about as deep for sure. So I did want to start, Dennis, so you're from Southern California and you said you got to Oklahoma as fast as you could, but what the heck led you here?
You know what? So I skipped the longer answer because the normal answer is I transferred from Pepperdine University to Oklahoma State.
Nice.
And people will say, are you crazy? You left Malibu to go to Stillwater.
Right.
And my standard answer is, you get tired of the sunshine and good-looking girls all day long. It gets old. I was a basketball player at Pepperdine out of high school, and both my coaches left. So my basketball coach took the UCLA job. My baseball coach retired. And so I had a chance to kind of do it over again. And I just decided I wanted to leave California and I wanted to play in Omaha. And at that time, Oklahoma State went to Omaha an awful lot. And I got out of California. So here I sit.
It worked out well for you because your whole life changed when you got here.
I had a plan. I was going to be here for 1 year. I was going to get drafted. I'd play in the major leagues and I would move back to Southern California because when you grow up in California, there's nothing east of Nevada that matters.
Right.
It's just the world stops at Nevada. And 35 years later, here I am. I'm still here.
You're still here. Well, part of your future plans worked out anyway because you did get drafted and got to play with the Yankees. I
did. I got drafted 3 times. It's funny, the major league draft and OU had a first round pick. Was very nice to see. Oklahoma actually represented really well.
We sure did. It was a good taking for them.
Yeah, I mean, the first player taken in the draft and the fourth player taken in the draft, both high school kids out of Oklahoma. So we represented. Cool. I got drafted out of high school. I really wanted to sign out of high school with the Minnesota Twins. I didn't. I was subsequently drafted 2 more times, the Dodgers and then the Yankees. And then we played 4 seasons with the Yankees. And at 25, they said, you're old and you're not very good. You should go home. So Julie and I were married by that time.
Yes.
So it's a lot harder to be a minor league baseball player with a wife than it is with a bunch of single guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Makes complete sense. Well, that's a really neat experience for you, I'm sure, and a neat story that you got to live out that dream of yours, even though it may have been, quote, short-lived. I mean, 4 years, that's still a decent amount of time. And obviously, Julie, okay, so you guys got married in college, you said. So what did you do while he was doing minor league?
So obviously the first 2 years of marriage, I was still at OU. So I'm still in Norman. So that, like you said, it was a long distance marriage, we will call it, because every February he had to leave to go to spring training.
Yeah.
So then I would catch up with him, as soon as our season was over, or, usually June 1st, around that area, because this was pre OU making the College World Series every year.
Right.
So my team was usually done by June. And so then I would go and either meet him in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or Greensboro, North Carolina. And then luckily for him, because I played softball, I knew the drill.
Yes.
So I would go into the apartment knowing we had 5 other baseball players I had to babysit.
Goodness.
So that was an adventure. So I would do that. And then I would just hang out waitress during the summer and then come back and go to school.
Nice.
So that was the rule, was I made my parents a promise I would graduate.
Yes.
And I would not quit softball, in which my coaches, everybody, panicked. And when I said, I will not quit softball, I will not quit. So I will do the right thing and finish everything. And so my first 2 years, my stats are under Julie Dobbs, under my main name. My last 2 years is under Julie Burbank. So sometimes my stats get messed up because they don't get them combined. And so I actually had some decent stats, but as far as everybody's concerned, there was 2 different players playing shortstop during that 4-year period.
That's crazy. Well, you played with some really amazing people, and one that stuck out to me obviously was Lonnie Alameda, and I have always been proud that she's a Sooner because I think she's such a cool lady.
Yeah.
And when Florida State played in Norman 2 or 3 years ago, I was sure to go to that game because I was like, I have to see her. And I just think that her story is really cool. I hope she's doing well with her breast cancer. I don't know if you know any update, but I haven't heard anything obviously in a while, but I hope she's doing okay.
The last time I checked in on her was obviously right before the College World Series. My graduating class is actually really tight knit.
Yes.
So we keep up with Lonnie on a regular basis.
Good.
I love to make bracelets, and so I just sent her and her team some Team Lonnie bracelets for them to wear during their regionals and super regionals. And we thought the College World Series, but they didn't make it. That's okay. And so Lonnie is great about keeping in touch with all of us. And we when she's in town especially, we all stop what we're doing and kind of go meet up.
That's
so it's
awesome.
great. Yeah.
Well, I spoke with Kelly Breich before, and we're texting friends now as well. And that's one thing that she mentioned to me was how close knit all of the former players are.
Yes.
And you guys have Facebook groups and text groups and all the things. And I think that's super cool because there's such a long list of awesome players, that span over 30, 40 years.
Yep.
And you guys are all pretty close and get together and hang out. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we actually, every time we just had a reunion this yeyear because it was the 50th anniversary year for OU softball. And so, of course, we all rib each other. And so, like I tell Kelly, I'm like, you would have made a great second baseman. You and I would have made So she always contends that I would have been her second baseman. But I'm like, oh, we would have seen,
That's funny.
So we rib each other.
That's good. That's good. It is cool to see. I was talking to Eric before we got on about a lot of our previous players, and he was like, who was y'all shortstop that graduated a couple years ago? Science. But it's so funny, like there's so many names over the years that people recognize. Even if you aren't a complete dedicated softball fan, you're gonna recognize these names just because they've become so well known, household names across Oklahoma for sure. But anyway, I just think it's cool the talent that we've seen across the field over the years for sure. And okay, so Dennis, back to you. She sent me a picture of you playing basketball, and in the picture it was Price.
It was Brent Price.
It was Brent Price.
Brent Price. Okay. Yeah, Brent Price, who was the brother of Mark Price. They both played in the NBA for a little while.
Okay.
Usually I get asked about the question, did you make the shot?
Yes.
Of course I made the shot. I never missed a shot 30 years later.
Right, exactly. So what on earth was it like to play 2 sports at the collegiate level? Because it's obviously pretty common in high school. But at the college level, that's very, very uncommon. So tell me a little bit about that, because that's very rare.
Yeah, it really was, especially back then. It's, things have changed now, and even in the single sports today, two-way players are much more popular. Guys hit and pitch, and that
Right.
was unheard of then. But playing two major sports was also really unheard of. I mean, obviously everybody knows Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. They don't know me, but everybody knows them. I spent a lot of time on airplanes. I was very tired. I got my degree in 4 years. So it was the only reason it was possible was because both of my coaches, Eddie Sutton coaching basketball and Gary Ward, they were friends and they said they would work it out. They decided that they would make it work. If I would have had two coaches that were really competing for my time or their personal needs, it wouldn't have been possible. But I mean, I used to, I'd go to baseball practice in the morning, I'd throw a bullpen, I'd have to lift weights, I'd have basketball practice in the afternoon, sometimes I'd throw a bullpen at night. Then once the season started, they overlapped for about a month or 6 weeks, depending on how far you go in the tournament. And so I literally would play a basketball game on a Tuesday night, let's say at Kansas, and I would get on an airplane by myself after the game. Somebody would drive me to the airport, and I would meet up with the baseball team the next day in, say, Las Vegas.
Wow.
And I would pitch in Vegas the next day, and then I'd get back on the plane by myself, and I would fly to Iowa, and I'd play at Iowa State. So the fact that the university and the coaches, allowed me to do that and made it possible that I could literally, I played 2 games in one day. I started a game at Allie P. Reynolds Stadium. I threw 5 innings, and they pulled me out because basketball was about to start. I walked up the hill, and I played a basketball game against Missouri. So, some coaches wouldn't have liked that, but my coaches they worked great with me.
Well, I think it's good that they did, because that just means that you were exceptional at what you were doing, but also just for you to have that experience is super rare and makes for some good stories for sure.
Yeah. It's funny that this happened this year. Julie and I were behind home plate at a baseball game. If anybody knows me, and there's like 3 of them out there, so 3 of you that know me, I was a big factor for baseball, right? I was an All-American baseball player. And I was a role player on the basketball team. I didn't ever start. Some games I played 20 minutes, and some games I played 2.
Yeah.
But I had a specific role, and everybody knew that. So I was a baseball player first, and I played a role in basketball. So we're sitting behind home plate, and somebody introduces me to a gentleman in front of me and says, this is Dennis Burbank and his wife Julie. And the guy kind of scratches his head, and he says, Dennis Burbank, the basketball player? And I just thought, yeah, that's me. That's the basketball player. You didn't know I played baseball, and I'm at a baseball game.
Oh my gosh,
That's awesome.
That's really funny. So I never went to a baseball game at Allie B Stadium, but I love O'Brate, and we've been to several games at O'Brate. So I'm sure that you have enjoyed that journey over the years of seeing how far the baseball program has gone or how it's maintained its status. And then the stadium is just incredible. Like, I mean, I hate to admit it as a Sooner. I'm sure, Julie, you get it. But sometimes we just have to admit things when the truth is the truth. But that is one heck of a stadium, I'll tell you that.
We did well in our stadium. I mean, it was definitely an upgrade from Allie P, which I did several games up there, and it's still fun. I still have some great experiences, but man, Cecil coming in with the money for O'Brate has just been extraordinary.
Yeah, I'm biased, but I've seen 100 stadiums, and so when people say, "Is it the nicest stadium you've ever seen?" I always say, I don't know if it's the nicest I've ever seen, and I've seen 100, but it's in the top 3 for sure.
I would say, yeah.
And now flip that to Love's Field. We got a preview before it was even done.
So awesome.
Patty let us come in and preview it, and I said to the person who was in charge of, I don't know if she was the architect or the project manager, it was as a young lady, and I said, wow, this place looks remarkably like O'Brate. Did you consult with the architects at O'Brate Stadium? Because they're very similar facility setups.
They are similar.
And she said to me, no, actually, they consulted with us.
Well, that sounds about right.
That's what she would have said.
I'm serious. I'm kidding. But that's really funny. So we've been to lots of games at O'Brate. We always try to make Bedlam baseball wherever it may be. And we were actually at Bedlam this past April.
You mean where we won, right?
I had a great time.
Okay.
I was going to say we're out in left field there, and so that walk off was hit like literally right next to us.
Right by my face.
I was very ecstatic, and he was not so much, because we drove back home after the game, and so we had about a 2.5-3 hour drive to get back home. And so he was not a happy camper after that, but I was beyond thrilled. And
I
then
don't remember. I don't
yeah,
remember.
well, that's okay.
We're loyal and true for a reason. I'm just saying, we're loyal and true for a reason.
There's
Yeah.
lots of things I don't remember either. Like the last Bedlam football game, I don't know about that.
Yeah, who cares? Who
Who
cares?
cares? Yes. So Bedlam softball this year was on my birthday. And so we went for that. And of course, Eric always says he would almost just as soon OU win so he doesn't have to listen to me after the game because I am just really mouthy and don't know how to be quiet. And so anyway, so for softball, of course, we won that game and it started out, kind of tight. It was a really good game, but I said it was my birthday. Like we had to win Bedlam softball on my birthday. That just would have been wrong. And it would have been a bad drive home.
Yeah. Listen, it doesn't matter what OU team's playing. It could be the gymnastics team, which is incredibly good. It could be the golf team. If Julie sees that OU loses, my night is ruined. It doesn't matter who they lost to.
That's totally me. And I'm the same way. Of course, if OU plays it, I follow it. And I always have for years. But of course, social media has made that a lot easier in recent years with Twitter and all the things because I literally follow everything and I get so mad and so mouthy. And of course, I'm a little more emotional with some sports more so than others. But yeah, he knows like, oh crap, OU lost, underwater basket weaving. It's going to be a bad night.
Just like when I have season tickets at Stillwater for football. So I'm watching her game if we happen to be playing at the same time. 2 years ago, she was down in Texas at Red River Rivalry. And I think I heard her in Stillwater and the gnashing of teeth. It's like, maybe I should spend the night in Stillwater tonight.
I would say football and softball are the two that I'm the most emotionally invested in. But also basketball, men's and women, are very close. Second behind that. And baseball has grown on me over the years. I mean, we've always gone to baseball games and we love going, but especially when it's Bedlam. And if OU's playing, I will follow, I will go and watch. But I'm in general not normally like a huge baseball fan per se. Like I don't watch pro baseball on TV. Now I will go to a Rangers game and have a great time, but I have gotten a little more invested in the baseball team, especially the last few years. And since I started doing this, I've become more invested in all the sports. Soccer, I went to my first soccer game last fall, my first tennis matches this spring for men's and women. I'm planning on going to my first volleyball game this fall. So it's a lot of firsts for me on some of those sports that often get overlooked. But yeah, the emotional investment is about the same, if we're being honest. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense over here because I mean, just like you said, I am OU first, right? And then I will cheer for OSU after us, and then I cheer for the state, and cheer for the conference. Well, now I'm super conflicted with this conference.
I know it's crazy.
Our daughter played at Texas A&M. And so she was all about the SEC. When she was there, well, we were still Big 12. And I didn't care about the SEC. But now it just means more to me now. Okay. And so now I'm like, Big 12, who? I don't even I can't be associate with you little brothers over here. Like,
you are a nicer person than me. And I tell this to a lot of people because I hear that from, I would say, 8 out of 10 OU fans. I will cheer for OSU if they're not playing us or yada yada. And I have to say, I cannot admit that because it is a very rare day that I would want OSU to win. And if I do, I'm not going to admit it. Like I will silently cheer or whatever. But I used to love to go to Stillwater when they would play Texas, especially football, because I can do horns down all day.
Oh yeah.
Like take me to any Texas game and I'm happy. But that's not going to be happening in Stillwater anymore with the conference switch. So my fun days are over. I just wear black and go on about my day. But
literally wore a Baylor shirt when we went down for a OSU Baylor game. That's how legit. Like
that's a commitment. That's a commitment.
Sorry, I mean.
So on the flip side, I didn't grow up here, and so I don't have that hatred that you're supposed to have as a child when you're raised in Oklahoma. Right. Now I have friends and teammates that absolutely have it.
For sure.
When I was a young kid, I mean, I thought Brian Bosworth was awesome, and I liked Jamel Holloway, and we could see them on television. Yeah. There would be an OU Miami football game, and I thought, okay, OU football. I wore number 44, Bosworth 44. When you get here, you certainly are taught the hatred quickly.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, I don't hate OU any more than I hate anybody else I competed against at that moment. I hate the Cal State Fullerton Titans when I'm pitching against them, or
Right?
the Georgia Bulldogs. I have 2 Bulldogs. Sometimes I walk by and kick one just because. So it's you learn it. But I like I said on my little bio, I think Patty's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I think Porter Mosier's phenomenal. I work with tons of coaches across the country, and what Skip Johnson's doing with OU baseball is great. And I hope we win every game. But if we don't win every game, I hope Skip wins the rest of them.
Yes. Well, I have this conversation a lot too with OSU people. If they ask me if I cheer for them or whatever, I usually will just say the one thing that we can all agree on is Texas sucks. Okay, let's just leave it at that. We all on the same page with that, so it might just be best to leave that one alone.
Well, and for me too, Patty's been remarkable. Just thinking about her going to the first softball games across the street at the city fields to where it is now. And, I think about Coach Venables, and I'm a big leadership guy, and actually getting another degree in organizational leadership right now of, we've got to raise up men, and being in finance, we got to raise up men and women that are able to sustain financially and have a purpose and a mission in life. And that's what sports does. And so that's what's really cool across the board for both of our teams, is that our coaches are pouring into those lives. And so, I can cheer for that all day long.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, so your daughter played soccer at A&M. And so that's really cool, of course, that she got to play at a collegiate level, because that's a big deal. And then they won the SEC championship, and then she transferred to OSU. Did they beat OU the year that she played in Stillwater? Do you know?
Nah. Let me think.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I can tell you that when she was at A&M, she was a goalkeeper. And when she was at A&M, they went to the NCAA championships, then went to the regionals. So in the Sweet 16 game, A&M faced Oklahoma State in the Sweet 16. And Jordan did not start the game in goal, but Jordan was a dynamic shot blocker. And so they always said, if we go to PKs, even if Jordan's not starting today, we will sub out the goalkeeper, put Jordan in to block the PKs. And I always,
rare.
Yeah, I thought that's crazy. You're never going to do that. You're not going to pull your goalie out after 90 minutes of soccer. And it was 3-3 against Oklahoma State. Jordan hadn't played that day. They go into PKs, penalty kicks, and they subbed her out. And Jordan went in goal, and Jordan won. A&M won 3-2. And so I've got great pictures of Jordan blocking shots. And so Jordan actually got to face Oklahoma State as an A&M player as well.
Yes.
Well, you were conflicted with that for sure.
You know what? So here, this is literally, I have an airplane. I flew my airplane to Raleigh, North Carolina, and I flew and to watch just this game. And I wore a Texas A&M soccer shirt and an OSU hat, a baseball hat.
I love it.
But when it went to PKs, I took my OSU hat off and I put my A&M hat on.
Costume change.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That is awesome. I love that so much. So she actually graduated from OSU, so she has that going for her, I guess. And so now your son also attends OSU, so he will graduate from there as well.
Yep.
So that's really cool.
But it's very simple. Only one of us can really probably go to OU. So we picked the best one. The rest of them can go to OSU. They hand out degrees, no big deal. So you got to be a strong individual to go to OU, I feel like. And so, like I said, every time we get in a family argument or whatever, I just go, there's just one of us. The rest of you can do this all day long. The rest of you can all go over there.
That
all day.
definitely
He'll be
sounds
here all
like,
day.
yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like something I would say for sure. We do not have kids, but our dog is like our kid, and he has a Bedlam bandana and the whole 9 yards, because if he were a child, he would be brainwashed one way or another. I'm not sure, but we
know who would win that one, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's what, when our kids were little, we get up and I'm loyal like you are. On Saturday mornings, I watch Game Day. I'm invested. I know exactly what time OU plays. Mm-hmm. I know we can eat or do something afterwards, but in the meantime, don't bother me. I just don't want to be let me have my time, right?
Yes.
So when the kids were little, it was whoever got up first got the kids dressed. So on Saturdays, they might be in orange, they might be in red. It just depended on who was up first. And so the same thing goes with Gatorade. If I was giving them a Gatorade, it was the red fruit Gatorade. If I was giving them Gatorade, it was orange Gatorade. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, the struggle is real.
I get it. I would have been in trouble because he would have beat me out of bed every weekend for sure. My kid would have been brainwashed orange. We have nieces and nephews, and one of our nieces is 10, and she's kind of taken my side as far as the OU goes. And she went to OU basketball camp. We took turns driving her up. And so I took her one day. And of course, I was like fangirling a little bit over the players that are their coaches for the week and everything. And so I'm telling her, you know, like this person, so-and-so, and this is what she plays. And she's just like, you're so weird. Like, you know, here I am as an adult fangirling over these 20-year-olds. But she definitely, I taught her to do horns down. We went to OU women's basketball game last year against Texas. Perfect. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but I did teach her to do horns down. And then we've gone to gymnastics meet for years. She used to be in gymnastics, so she loves that as well. So I've gotten her a little brainwashed on the OU side, but our two nephews, I think, are... they're just kind of like whatever, but they think Uncle Eric hung the moon. And so he has Pistol Pete and all the OSU stuff on his vehicle. I have OU Sooner Club, all the things on my vehicle. Well, he has a Pistol Pete hitch on his truck. And so our nephews are like, Mr. Pete, Mr. They're younger. The youngest one's 5. So yeah, they're not quite sure yet what's going on, but Eric definitely has them fawning over Mr. Pete. So
the bad thing is I'm the only OSU fan in my family.
Yeah.
So I everyone else has always been OU, that kind of thing. And so I'll probably lose that battle at some point.
Yeah. Long term, the odds are stacked against us.
Yeah. Well, I got one of the kids, so I'm happy. Okay, so your son...
He's at esports, right?
Esporters. That, you know, our son Drew is as big as Dennis, so he's 6'5". Everybody thinks like, oh, did you play basketball? Did you play baseball? And when he was little, we tried every sport: hockey, golf, tennis, football. I mean, he won a little state championship in football, baseball. I mean, he literally did every sport, but he did not have what I would call the kill factor, because, you know, there's something that, you know, when you cross the line, something clicks. And so he would say, Mom, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want, and I was like, how do you not have this Burbank DNA? Like, what are you talking about? Like, if I needed to rip the mailman's head off and you said, get him, I would go get him right now and not even think twice. And so he just did not have that in him. And when he was in high school, they really just said, he loves this gaming, this esports is just something that you may not know about. And I kept thinking, you guys are crazy. And then they even went so far as to tell me, which just hurts my heart, that one day it could be an Olympic sport. Yep. And I was like, oh, Lord help us. If that boy gets in the Olympics before any of the other Burbanks get in the Olympics, this will be painful. So Dennis had made the Olympic handball team, and then I kind of coerced him not to go to Atlanta to play in it because we were still newly married.
Oh!
So, yeah, so we've got that hanging over our head that Dad actually made the team, but Mom kind of pulled him back from the team. And if Drew now makes the Olympic esports team, there will be a lot of counseling sessions for the Burbank family. Let's just say that.
I cannot imagine. Okay, well, I need to stay tuned and follow this situation.
Yes.
I joke with people. I say, I never thought that I'd have a 6'5", 240-pound son, and the words coming out of my mouth are, put down that basketball, get upstairs and play some video games. You've got to practice. Never thought I'd say that.
Well, it's a thing now. It's a very big thing. And it's like, well, you have to capitalize on the opportunities that have come up that no one ever imagined. I mean, so that's crazy to think about, but yeah, you just never know what's going to happen. So
I try to tell him all the time when people would, you know, when he was little and people were like, what do you want him to be? Do you hope he gets drafted? Do you want him to play in the NFL? And I said, you know, he just doesn't have, like I said, the kill factor. And what I would tell them is I wonder what George Lucas's mom said. Like, oh, sure wish you would have turned out to be something good. So I always use that example of, you know, there's a lot of amazing people out there who did not play one sport. Yep. So he doesn't have to play a sport to still be awesome. Just let him be who he wants to be.
Absolutely. That's really all that matters.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to back up a little bit, but I don't want to neglect getting this story on record. But the story of how you guys met and you got her phone number and all that, because it's really funny. So I don't know which one of y'all wants to tell it, because you both kind of told Well, you told the same story, just two different perspectives.
I like Dennis's the best,
Eric,
but
so anyway, let's talk about that, and y'all can kind of jump in and
Well,
throw in your own thoughts.
so we met at the Big 8 baseball tournament, and OSU had just beaten OU again. And so we were leaving the stadium, and I was the catcher from OU was a friend of mine from California, and he and I were going to go get something to eat, and he stopped and talked to a group of girls. It was we walked up kind of home plate bleachers, and as he's talking, there was a number of pretty girls, but Julie really stood out, and I kind of elbowed him. I said, "Hey, introduce me." And the truth of the matter is he's like, "Oh, this is my friend. He's a 2-sport star, blah blah blah," and Julie kind of went, okay.
Big deal. I got
So-
those that back in Norman. Big deal. Big deal.
that was kind of it. That was, we met, and I went on to ask, hey, can you get me her number? And he did. The next day I got her phone number, but I signed within about 2 weeks. We went on to play in the regionals, and within a couple of weeks I had signed with the Yankees and I was gone. So I went away for the summer, and I never followed up. I never called her. I never did anything. But when I came back to finish my degree, I bumped into another kid who had gone to OU, and this is before cell phones. And I just said, hey, I met this girl last year. Do you know this girl that played softball? And he goes, oh, yeah, I know her really well. I'll call her. So he kind of reintroduced us again 6 months later, and she was head over heels. I mean, like that. So it was easy after that.
It was not exactly.
It's your version, Julie.
So my version's somewhat similar as far as, I mean, like he said, him coming up through the stands, and Shula at the time said, hey, Jules, this Dennis Burbank, he plays baseball and basketball. And if I remember right, I said something to the effect of, I don't need your resume, but thank you anyways, I'm good. And he said, okay. So then the next day he was like, hey, will you give him your phone number? And I said, okay, sure. So I would love to tell you that every athlete we're so focused, and we remember that lasting impression. But I couldn't have told you what the man looked like the next day. I had no idea. I was like, okay. So then when October rolls around, he calls me and says, hey, do you remember me? We met in May. And I honestly said, nope. I don't. I'm sure if I would have played it back and had a picture and a cell phone back then, I would have remembered him. But I didn't. And being the good, wholesome OU girl that I am, he said, can we go out on a date? And I said, we can, but it'll have to be on a Thursday night, and I will have to drive to Stillwater because I actually had a date on Wednesday night and had another date on Friday night at the fraternity party I was supposed to go to. So I was going to try to fit him in so that I thought, just in case he might be the one, I need to make sure. But I also don't want to burn all the bridges in Norman just yet.
I mean, I can't.
I drove to Stillwater. We went out on a date. I came home that night, and hand to God, I literally told my roommates, I said, probably going to marry that one. And they were like, no. And I said, no, I think he might be the one. And so I tried to cancel my date on Friday night, but I couldn't get out of it. Felt guilty. And then Saturday night, him and another baseball player, Lou Luca, were up in Norman, and we went out. And in February, he swings by my sorority house and pops the question. So
I was going to say, it happened pretty quick.
It was a quick turnaround.
It certainly was. Okay, so is that the night you showed up in the armor?
Yes.
It is. Yeah. It was a daytime. It was Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And I'd spoken to her mother, and I'd asked her dad for permission. So we kind of knew, and I had a suit of armor flown in from California. So I had this all set up, and it just happened to be Valentine's Day. Her season was about to start, and I had to leave for spring training.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, we should do this now before we both get super busy. Coincidentally, Robert Allen at the time was the sports commentator on Channel 4.
Uh-huh.
So Robert Allen and Van Shea Ivan called me that morning. They said, hey, we're doing a story today in Valentine's Day on Bedlam relationships, on Bedlam love, kind of like we're doing right now.
Cool.
Would you let me come interview you? We're going to drive to the house and we're going to interview you. And I said, I'll do you one better. I'm driving to Norman right now. I'm about to propose to Julie at her sorority house. So Robert Allen and Van Shea Ivan from Channel 4 run up to Norman, and everything was on the news before we could even tell our friends.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It was like the internet gone wild before the internet, because I was on the 5, the 6, and the 10 o'clock news, and I hadn't told one family member besides my parents and my sister who knew.
That is
But
incredible.
then obviously every high school coach and friend starts calling him like, seriously, what is going on? I'm like,
Well-
even I don't know. Even I don't know.
That is so crazy. I love that so much.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
it was fun. And then I had to leave literally after he proposed, because it was probably about 1:00. I had softball practice at 3. And I was like, I hate to like cut it short, but I gotta get to the indoor facility
gotta
because
go.
we have hitting. And we left that night to go play North Texas because Saturday we opened up with North Texas. So I'm like, love you, gotta go. Thanks for the ring. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Hilarious. And then you guys got married later that year in the fall, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. 33 years later, here we are.
33
awesome.
years later. That is amazing.
We were married in 1992.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, Julie, one of the favorite things that you sent me, and I know you mentioned this was one of your favorite memories as well, obviously in addition to our lovely love story, but you making the poster for the Women's College World Series. That is so cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I bet so. I bet so. So how different was the Women's College World Series back then, kind of compared to what it is now?
Yeah, it was the Hall of Fame Stadium #1 only had one field back then.
Oh, yes, yes.
And where all the left field bleachers and the built-ins are was a berm. So, when we would get done playing, we would go sit on the berm and put our shoes on, or, shoe polish our shoes. Our coach was big into shoe polishing. And so, it was nice, but yet it seemed very intimate, so obviously it wasn't as bad as Reeves Park because nobody had to the fences or anything, but as it was still, I would tell you that the College World Series wasn't as big of a deal at all. It really was nothing. Nobody even knew about it, and it would usually come and go, and it was not a big deal. That junior year when they asked me, so what they did was Nike actually came out, and at that time we had to do a photo shoot, so to speak, for the poster. So I was on the College World Series poster. Lonnie Alameda was on the Division II College World Series poster because they played at a different location.
Okay.
And so they made us come out there, and they happened to come on the Thursday before we opened up with the Big 8 softball tournament, which was probably a bad deal because they did it. They did the poster actually. We did the photo shoot in 91. So we did the photo shoot in 91, and the plays are real. So those are really plays that we were doing out there at a practice, with full uniforms, full everything. But I ended up getting hurt in the photo shoot, which I hurt my hip and my knee and my elbow and wrist because we just kept diving, just quick, and they had 3 different camera angles going. Well, that pretty much sealed the deal for us the next day when we started winning the Big 8 tournament at the Hall of Fame Stadium. So we ended up losing in 2 on that, but I paid the price.
But she looked good. Doing it.
Like you said, it wasn't as big of a deal back then, and it's crazy to think how far the sport has come in the last 30 years. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So I was at OU 98, and then I graduated in 03. So even during that time, the sport at OU changed quite a bit.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy to think, they used to play at Reeves Park, and nobody cared. Honestly,
nobody knew we were over there.
They did it. No one cared. No one really gave you the time of day. And I remember when Marita Hines opened, and then they won the national championship right after the football team had won. And it's just crazy to think where they are now, Love's Field.
Yeah.
To think that I don't know that anybody would have ever thought that they would outgrow Marita Hines, especially when they added all the bleachers. You think that's a lot of people to come to a softball game. And it is. It is a lot. But now here we are at Love's, which is incredible.
Incredible.
It's just amazing to see how far the sport's come. And Dennis, I'm glad that you said that, like you said, you love Patty and respect her, and same with Porter and the other coaches. But I mean, Patty, anybody that loves softball has to give her props, because not just for OU, but as an OU fan, obviously I'm glad she's ours.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
certainly glad she's not a Poke or something, but or a Longhorn, that'd be even worse. But I am glad she's a Sooner. But just for the sport in general, she's done so much, and it's so cool to see how far it's come. And then I think she's going to coach in the Olympics. Like, it's just insane, and I love it so much, and I'm pumped. I saw it's exactly 3 years that Olympic softball and the canoe will start in Oklahoma City, which is mind-boggling that is happening. And I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about it happening in Oklahoma City, but there's not a better place, in my opinion, for softball for sure, because nothing else can house the people and are prepared for such a crowd like Oklahoma City. And I'm pumped. I'm ready. They have to sell a kidney or two to go, but my oldest niece, she's 19, and we have gone to softball games for years. And that's always kind of been our thing. But she asked me when they announced that the Olympics were coming to Oklahoma City, she was like, are you going to get tickets for us to go? And I'm like, well, if you're willing to lose an organ, then which who knows what they'll even cost. But I for sure am planning to at least, we got to go to one game. I don't know, we'll figure it out or whatever, but I'm like, we have to go. We've been to so much over the years with Marita Hines, Love's Field. We were there for opening day of Love's. We've been to the Women's College World Series for days on end, and we have to go to the Olympics. I mean, Coach Patty is the GOAT. I mean, she's going to be there, and God knows how many Sooners will be on that roster. So
there's not a better facility in America that could hold that. I mean, if they stuck it in a major league stadium, let's say they played in Dodger Stadium, it would be so overwhelmed by the sheer space, even if they tightened it up, that you have to play it. Devon Park is as nice as you're going to find anywhere in America.
Yeah.
And it just happens to Los Angeles doesn't have, UCLA doesn't have that, Fullerton doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So you have to go someplace, and there's no place like Devon.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad that we're not wasting the money that we do to build these things for 1 year. And so let's go across. I hate it for the Olympic teams themselves, but man, go to the places that have the facilities.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like you saying, you hate it for the Olympians. But if you are going to come somewhere, we will show them a love like no other.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because just like we did with the Thunder.
Yes.
That's all we had.
Yeah.
And we don't, and when the state can rally around one team, well, anybody coming from all those other countries coming here, we're going to love on them like nobody's business. So they're going to have a different experience. So I'm super excited for them. And I'm counting on, my sister works at Devon. I'm really, come on,
sister.
I'm counting on baby sister to pull through for me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I heard a podcast about the Thunder and how we're just different fans as Thunder fans, but because we're college fans. And this is our first professional teams. And so there's nothing like tailgating and spending the whole day and doing those type of things. So these softball players are going to get to see the things that they've never been able to come and play in Love's Field or play at Devon Park or both of them, meaning both, and so they're going to see the love that we have just for our sports.
Yes.
In the state.
I think interesting too that the national teams from other countries have been here, right? Japan comes and Canada comes, and they have, I don't know what they call them in softball, in soccer it's friendlies, but they have miniature tournaments. So if you're on the Japanese national team, when you come to Oklahoma City, it's going to be a very good venue, as opposed to if you just show up in Amarillo somewhere, who knows what you're going to get for a softball field.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. I'm very excited about it. When they announced Patty as the coach of Team USA, I just thought, this is it. She's going to go out with a gold medal. I truly think that she's going to hang in for a few more years with OU and then get that gold medal for Team USA. And I'm betting after that, retirement won't be far off for her, which she has more than earned, but I sure am going to hate to see her go. However, I think...
It crushes me.
I bet. It's just crazy to think about. I mean, she's all that I've ever really known as far as watching OU softball, and it's crazy to think about her not being there. But I think, obviously, it will be in good hands going forward because, I mean, look at her kids. Yeah. Look at our staff now. I mean, I'm not worried about it, but it'll just be weird.
Yeah. Well, and Patty, you saying Patty, I'll tell you a real quick story. One of the things that my group, we call ourselves the pre-Patty posse.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it weren't for, my head coach had a brain aneurysm. And so that's where she had to step down.
Oh, my goodness.
Which allowed, she's still alive, so she survived and did good. But by her stepping down, that's what opened the door for Patty.
Wow.
Because she had to retire. And so a lot of people forget there was actually a coaching staff in between Marita and Patty, and that was Coach Michelle Thomas. So when she stepped down, one of the things whenever Dennis and I first moved back, Patty kind of reached out to me and said, hey, I don't know your group. I don't know who you guys are. And I said, okay, let's. And so she did a great job, in my opinion, of opening her arms, saying,
Good.
you guys were here before me. So can we all work together? And so one of my favorite stories I like to tell, which makes me feel like we actually did do something, is when we were taking the tour of Love Stadium 2 years ago. I had introduced myself to one of her players, and I said, hi, I'm Julie Burbank. I played in 90, 94. And she goes, I know who you are. And I go, you do? And she goes, yeah, you're one of the bricklayers. And I said, what do you mean the bricklayers? And she said, your name is on a brick over at Marita Hines. And she said, we knew that you guys came from Reeves and you're the reason we got Marita.
Absolutely.
And now my group is the reason we get Loves. And I was like, okay, I'll take that compliment. I love that.
I love that.
So that was huge. So I appreciated that. And so we aren't the forget-me-nots, because some people only remember some of the big hitters, and I'm like, my group had big hitters too. We just didn't have the TV station out there filming us as excited, right?
Exactly. That is another thing that Kelly Breich had told me multiple times, and on our interview, and just when we're chatting, is your teams and all of the ladies before her laid the foundation. And so everybody has played an important role in getting OU softball where they are today. And without each one of you, we wouldn't be there. And so you're exactly right. I love the bricklayer, because that's a good term for it. That's a good way to explain it, and to thank you guys for the hard work. Because like you said, like, you guys did put in the work and did all of that too. It just wasn't as publicized, and the means weren't there for it to be publicized like it is now. But
absolutely,
you guys have played an important role. And I know Kelly has mentioned, like I said, you guys staying in contact very well, and getting together and doing all that. And I think that's awesome. And it's not, I know you guys joke and give each other a hard time, but like, you're not trying to think I was a better shortstop than she was, or she was a better hitter than I was. It's nothing like that. And all of the former girls that I've talked to, they all say the same thing, and they have nothing but respect for the former players, the former coaches. We saw that with Coach Patty and Coach Lombardi when we had to play Oregon. Who does that? Yes. And even when we played Arkansas and she's coaching against her son, like, of course they have that rivalry, and they're competitive and they want to win, but they just have that respect. And again, back to Coach Lombardi and Sid Romero's there now, and now Paige Parker.
Yes, I saw that. Well, our coaching tree, and I try to tell people anytime they go, like, really softball, and I'm like, do you realize how strong the coaching tree is that comes through Norman?
Most people don't.
Sam Walton, Kenny Gajewski, Lonnie Alameda.
Yes.
We could go for days. There is a coach somewhere in a system that is making an impact that somehow had an OU connection, in my opinion. And so, we are very, very tight with Kenny Gajewski, and I rib him more than anybody. Anytime he starts mouthing off, I send him a little picture of him winning the College World Series men. And I just want to remind him where he came from. Just want to remind you, just in case you get a little lippy. Here you are in an OU uniform.
Love that.
I love that so many people. It's for us on our side, for Dennis and I. Our circle is small and tight, yet I feel like it has been shared with everyone all across the world. Everybody. So anytime they can make an impact on any women's sports, for me, is ginormous. And I will do anything I can to help women's sports.
Yes.
And again, my university, and I'll help his every once in a while. I will help them.
Well, I love that you brought that up about Coach Gajewski, because that's one of my favorite things about him, obviously. And I've heard he's a very kind man. But yeah, I love that he came from OU, because I think it's hilarious. But but yeah, I know I told you this before, but that's really why I started doing this podcast and what I do, because I love hearing people's stories. And of course, you guys is super special, just with the Bedlam connection, obviously, but just hearing women and their stories on how they got to where they are as athletes. And I've even talked to people in different aspects of the athletic world that do behind the scenes stuff. And I'm like, there's so many people that play important roles of getting women's sports and just sports in general where we are today and pushing us forward to the future. And it's so cool to get to talk to all the different people and all the different roles. And I'm having a blast doing it. Football and softball and basketball, baseball are pretty well known, pretty well publicized, and everybody is aware that it's happening. But there's so many smaller sports. Soccer, I mean, with your daughter playing, even now with esports and your son, and volleyball, tennis, golf. I mean, I've had athletes on from all of those sports, and I like talking to them because it's cool to hear their stories. I talked to a tennis player. He's from Mozambique, Africa, and he told me the story on how he went to Morocco by himself at 13 years old to train so that he could be the best tennis player he could be. He ended up in the States, and now he's at OU. And I'm just sitting there listening to him, and I'm crying because of all he sacrificed for himself and to further, the sport too. But just, it's so cool to hear everybody's story. And I think people don't even know, they don't pay attention to these tennis players and these golfers, and everybody knows the football team.
Right.
And a lot of basketball players, baseball, and now softball, but there's so many other athletes that are not as well known. And so I've really enjoyed getting to connect with as many as I can and showcasing those and pushing all of their sports forward, in addition to the females and female sports. So I've enjoyed doing this so far. And again, I'm thankful for you guys and your story, because you have awesome stories on how you got where you are as athletes and as human beings, and then of course how you met and have been married for 33 years. That's just so cool. So I'm thankful that y'all took the time to come and join me on my Sooner podcast.
Well, listen, just as we're talking about things that aren't as well known, let's not forget Oklahoma State's national championship in the meat judging category. I mean, let's give credit where credit's due. Yes,
Okay.
yes. When you talk about talent and you judging meat, there's only one Oklahoma State.
Okay. Well, I thought you were going to say the equestrian team or something. And what did you guys just won something? Golf. Well,
yes. Oh, remember golf and wrestling. We know. Right? We know.
Well, before I let y'all go, is there anything else you wanted to share that we maybe didn't mention or overlooked, or anything you want to talk about?
Just that you can go to 2 different schools and love can conquer all.
I agree.
Get me the heck off the screen. I will not put the Sooner Girl logo over your head. I'll put it over there.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Thank y'all for taking the time. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely.